Sign it, old man. My wife's lawyer sneered. He had no idea who I really was. I stood in the doorway of our quiet suburban home in Maple Heights, my old eyes squinting through my reading glasses as I watched my wife Trisha fuss over a vase of fresh flowers on the mantel. At 60, I've learned to notice the little things, the details that most folks my age might brush off as forgetfulness or routine. But not me. Not after 35 years in the shadows of military intelligence, where missing a single clue could mean the end of everything. Trisha was 58 now, still elegant in her way with silver streaks in her auburn hair, and that same poised figure that had caught my eye all those years ago. To the outside world, we were the epitome of a golden retirement, a beautiful house paid off after decades of hard work, 2 reliable cars in the driveway, one for errands, one for those rare road trips, and all the comforts of the American dream we'd built together over 25 years of marriage. Neighbors envied us, calling us the perfect couple who'd made it through the storms of life unscathed. But my trained instincts, honed from missions in forgotten corners of the world, where men like me operated as ghosts, slipping in and out of danger, eliminating threats for country and sometimes for coin, told a different story. I noticed how Trisha's phone was always face down on the table these days, buzzing with notifications she silenced too quickly. Her sudden passion for those evening book clubs where she'd return late smelling a perfume I didn't recognize. And then there was the expensive lingerie I'd glimpsed in her drawer, tucked under her everyday clothes, silk and lace that had no place in our routine, comfortable life. For 25 years, I'd played the role of the devoted husband and retired security consultant. After leaving the service 2 decades ago, I'd hung up my covert ops for good, or so I thought. Trisha didn't know the half of it, the aliases I'd worn, the lives I'd ended, the secrets I'd buried to protect our nation. I'd been one of the best, a phantom who could orchestrate chaos from afar and vanish without a trace. When I met her at that charity gala back in our 40s, she an event coordinator with a spark in her eye, me a mysterious veteran with scars I never explained we had fallen hard. She was charmed by my quiet strength, never prying too deep into my past. I thought I could leave it all behind, build a real life with her, grow old in peace. "You're home early," Trisha said without looking up, her voice carrying that distant edge I'd grown used to lately. I adjusted my glasses and studied her reflection in the hallway mirror, noting the subtle tension in her shoulders. "Wrapped up the Morrison consultation ahead of schedule," I replied evenly, my voice steady despite the storm brewing inside. She was still beautiful in that timeless way, but I'd learned long ago that beauty could hide the sharpest blades. Our marriage had been solid once genuine love, shared dreams of retirement, travels, quiet evenings by the fire. But people change, or maybe they just reveal their true selves over time. "I'll be out tonight," Trisha announced, finally turning to me. "Sarah's book club. We're discussing that new mystery novel everyone's raving about." I nodded, but I knew better. Sarah Morrison, wife of my old client, was vacationing in Europe. I checked discreetly through my contacts. The signs had been piling up for months, calls cut short when I entered the room, unexplained charges on our joint cards, a chill in our once warm intimacy. "Enjoy yourself," I said simply. As she grabbed her purse, I caught a glimpse of a text on her phone. "Can't wait to see you tonight, gorgeous." From D. I'd already identified him. Dominic Vaughn, 60 years old, a lawyer at Wheeler, Vaughn and Associates. An old acquaintance from my consulting days, recently divorced with a reputation for ruthless deals in the courtroom and out. The kind of man who took what he wanted, no matter the cost to others. After Trisha left, I descended to my basement office, my steps slower these days, but purposeful. To anyone else, it looked like a standard retiree's den monitors for home security files from my consulting gigs. But behind a hidden panel lay the remnants of my old life secure tech that didn't officially exist, encrypted contacts, in the shadows tools to make problems vanish forever. I activated my secure line and began pulling files on Dominic. The pieces were falling into place. For 3 months, I'd been preparing, hoping I was wrong about Trisha wanting to cling to the life we'd built in our twilight years. But betrayal I'd learned through DeSykes was a poison that demanded excision no matter how deep the cut. As I reviewed the surveillance feeds courtesy of my tech-savvy contact, I felt that familiar cold resolve settle over me. The retired husband was fading. In his place rose the ghost I tried to bury, ready to remind them that even at 65, mercy was a luxury I could no longer afford. Subscribe to Soldier's Revenge for more stories. Now let's begin this one. Before we dive in, hit that subscribe button. If you love tales of Soldier's Revenge, and drop a comment below telling me where you're listening from, your city or country. It means the world to me. The surveillance footage hit me like a gut punch from my old training days, sharp, unforgiving, and impossible to ignore. I sat in my basement office at 2 a.m., the glow of the secure monitor casting long shadows across my wrinkled hands. Christian Montoya, my young tech wizard from the new generation, had delivered the goods: remotely crystal clear videos and audio from hidden feeds I'd strategically placed months ago. No need for me to tail them myself at my age. That's what a lifetime of building networks was for. Trisha and Dominic had been meeting twice a week, their affair escalating from stolen lunches to bold hotel rendezvous. But it was the audio that twisted the knife-deepest conversations laced with mockery that made my blood run cold. He has no idea what's coming. Dominic's voice sneered through my earpiece, smug and cruel. When you file for divorce, Ross will ensure you get it all: the house, the assets, even his pathetic little consulting firm. The old man's been living in a fantasy, thinking he can hold on to any of it. Trisha's laughter echoed like shards of ice in my veins. I almost feel sorry for him. He thinks we're this perfect retired couple. Martin's so predictable, comes home, tinkers with his security gadgets, buries himself in those dusty military history books. He has no clue I've been copying his files for months. I paused the recording, my jaw tightening as a wave of betrayal washed over me. Copying my files. After 25 years of trust, of building this life together. The basement door had layers of security biometrics, silent alarms that should have kept anyone out. But Trisha had always been clever, resourceful in ways I'd once admired. I pulled up the system logs on my computer, my fingers steady despite the rage simmering beneath. There they were, intrusions time-stamped during my short business trips, subtle enough for most, but not for someone with my training. She'd been careful, but not careful enough. The next clip was even more damning. Dominic's tone dripped with satisfaction. Your husband's little security outfit is about to crumble. I've got pull with the state licensing board, a few anonymous complaints about, say, shady procedures, questions about his murky background he can't answer. The old fool will be ruined. I shut off the audio and leaned back in my chair, the weight of 65 years pressing down. They weren't just planning to leave me, they were scheming to dismantle everything I'd built post-retirement. In their arrogance, they saw me as a frail obstacle, an old man past his prime. They had no inkling they were waging war against someone who'd spent 35 years mastering battles in the shadows, strategies that turned empires to dust without firing a shot. My phone buzzed a secure line. The caller ID was blank, but I knew the encrypted ping: Robert Hatch, my former handler, now 68, in as gravelly voice as ever. I'd reached out 2 weeks ago, dusting off channels dormant for decades. Peril status report, he growled. Targets confirmed. They're accelerating, divorce papers likely filed soon. You sure about this, Martin? No turning back to your quiet retirement. I glanced at our wedding photo on the desk, faded, but still a reminder of better days. That retirement died the moment they betrayed me. I need the full package, docs, resources, cleanup on standby. Understood. Delivery tomorrow. Good to have the old ghost back. The line clicked dead. I spent the next hour on encrypted calls rallying my team veterans, like me, scattered but loyal. Jake Prince, 62, my old teammate running ops in Chicago with tactical insights sharper than ever. Al Roberts, 65, the financial ghost who could trace money trails blindfolded. They'd handle the heavy lifting, I'd orchestrate from here. By dawn, the plan was set, a web of countermeasures woven with precision. As the sun rose over Maple Heights, I prepared for my last day as the husband she knew shower conservative suit breakfast routine unchanged. But inside, the strategist awakened. What would happen when Trisha came down those stairs? The papers arrived on a crisp Tuesday morning. While I reviewed old security footage for a client, my hands steady on the mouse despite the arthritis creeping in. Cameron Brock, the nervous young process server, handed them over with apologies, and I accepted calmly, even slipping him a 20 for his trouble. Trisha's petition was predictable. After 25 years, irreconcilable differences, demanding half our assets, including my consulting business. Dominic's signature sprawled across every page as her counsel the case assigned to Judge Melvin Ross, no accident given their old boys network. By Wednesday, my team had mobilized. Jake Prince, compact and graying at 62, arrived first, his unassuming look hiding tactical genius. Al Roberts followed with financial docs that traced Dominic's shady real estate deals. Christian slipped in undetected, his laptop brimming with footage. Status, I said, activating our secure link. Jake laid it out. Ross at 70 had gambling debts from Atlantic City piling up for years. Al added the paper trail. Christian, the indiscreet recordings. Their next play, paint me as a paranoid old man obsessed with security delusions. Countermeasures locked in. Darwallace Bright, their bought psychologist, would soon face his own funding scandals. I processed it all with the cold efficiency of my prime emotion buried under strategy. Betrayal stung, but victory demanded focus. Monday dawned autumn clear. I dressed in my Navy suit, moving slower these days, but deliberately arriving early to map the courthouse like old ops. Trisha and Dominic strode in together, no pretense. He in his pricey gray suit, swagger intact at 60. She in a black dress meant to evoke sympathy. The courtroom felt small, fluorescent lights, harsh on my aging eyes, Ross presiding like a bloated king at 70. Proceedings began. Dominic rose confidently. Petitioner seeks dissolution and equitable assets. I sat alone, declining counsel. Their surprise was palpable. Mr. Terrell, Ross condescended, retain counsel. Mr. Vaughn's experienced. I can represent myself, I replied evenly. Dominic painted me as distant, obsessed, sliding the settlement over with triumph. Sign it now, old man. The judge is my friend. You'll leave with nothing. Trisha smirked. He's too frail to fight. I met Dominic's gaze, letting my mask crack just enough. What misunderstanding had they made about this frail old man? I rose from my chair deliberately, my joints protesting, but my voice steady, drawing on 35 years of commanding rooms where lives hung in the balance. The courtroom air felt thick, charged with the weight of revelations to come. I think, I said quietly, my words measured and slow, letting each one land like a strategic feint. There's been a misunderstanding about who exactly you're dealing with. Ross's confident smirk faltered. First, his 70-year-old face paling under the fluorescence. Dominic's laugh rang hollow now. Uncertainty creeping in. Trisha's eyes widened, a flicker of doubt piercing her smugness. Inside, a cold satisfaction stirred the strategist in me, relishing this pivot where prey became predator. Perhaps we postpone. I continued, rising slowly, my gaze locking on Ross. From my jacket, I withdrew a slim folder, sliding it across the bench. Judge Ross, this report details your gambling debts in Atlantic City, accumulated over decades, peaking at page 12, with your obligations to Vincent the Shark Morrison. An old service acquaintance of mine. We shared unpleasant ops. He was intrigued to hear you'd oversee my divorce. The color drained from Ross's cheeks, his hands trembling on the gavel. Mr. Terrell, this is... I know precisely what it is. I interrupted smoothly, my tone carrying the quiet authority of age and experience. No need for volume when facts struck like precision strikes. Turning to Dominic, I fixed him with a stare honed from interrogations long past. Mr. Vaughn, your Elmwood Drive property, bought below market from Widow Flora Dorsey, unaware of development plans that tripled its value. Legal barely. But how did you know those plans early? Her grandson in city planning has been chatting with federal investigators on corruption. Dominic blustered to his feet, facade cracking at 60. This is intimidation. Trisha whispered, Martin, what are you doing? This isn't you. Her voice cracked, betrayal's echo now aimed back at her. Isn't it? I replied, a cold smile tugging at my lips, sensing her shock like blood in the water. You've rifled my files, Trisha. Thought an old man with 35 years in intelligence wouldn't notice amateur intrusions. Silence felt broken only by the hum of lights. I paced to the center, commanding as a general in his final battle. You assumed I was just a retired consultant fading quietly. But some choose peace because their past was war. My name's Martin Terrell now, but for 35 years I solved problems under shadows, eliminating threats, dismantling networks, vanishing without trace. Ross's hand shook visibly. These proceedings are irregular. Oh, Melvin, I said, stripping his title deliberately. Irregular is a judge taking bribes for rulings, a lawyer twisting justice for gain, a wife conspiring to ruin her husband. Dominic whispered denials to Trisha, but my sharpened hearing caught it all. I'd anticipated this. Christian, I spoke to the air. Hidden speakers crackled. Yes, sir, broadcasting. Monitors lit with high-definition footage, Trisha and Dominic in compromising trysts audio of mockery and plots. More damning, Dominic with criminals, Ross pocketing cash, Trisha photographing my docs. Meet Christian Montoya, I announced as he emerged lean and efficient. Former NSA documenting your sins for months. Revelations hammered home, shattering their web. Here's the play, Ross, recuse yourself. Dominic withdraw and advise independent counsel. Trisha divorcing a ghost is trickier than you dreamed. I found Trisha on a bench outside her and face a mask of vulnerability I'd seen glimpses of over our 25 years, frightened, outmatched. A shadow fell across her as I approached, the autumn sun warm on my skin, but doing nothing to thaw the ice in my chest. Who are you? She whispered, eyes searching mine. I'm the man you married, I replied, sitting beside her, my voice low and deliberate. And the one you betrayed, both true. Emotion welled up, a pang for the life we'd shared, now poisoned, but strategy kept me focused like plotting ops where hesitation cost lives. She shook her head. The things you said, it's impossible. You're a retired consultant from Denver. I've seen your records. You've seen what I crafted, I said, gently yet firmly, drawing on 35 years of forging identities to vanish threats. A shield for normalcy for us. Did you think building a security firm didn't require mastering deception? Those business trips, some tied loose ends from shadows I left behind. Retirement from that world isn't simple. It's a careful fade. Her hands trembled, implications sinking in. A black sedan pulled up. Vincent's men nodded to me as they passed, heading for Ross. Jesus, Trisha breathed. You know them. I know many, I said, mind already steps ahead in the financial unraveling. What will you do with that now? What do you want? She pleaded, grasping for salvage. Nothing, I stated, voice final as a vault closing. Our long marriage built on trust, eroded by greed, demanded this. You chose betrayal, live with it. The house assets gone, vanished into untouchable instruments, unreachable jurisdictions. Profit from destroying me, never. Her face whitened. You can't, there are laws. Laws for the visible world. Martin Terrell was my creation for you, now dismantled. A police cruiser arrived. Detective Katie Rutherford, 55, and unflinching, and approached. Mr. Terrell, we need you questions on your docs. I stood straightening my tie. Of course, about Ross, among other corruption insights. As we walked, Trisha called, Martin, we can fix this. I paused, glancing back. No, some betrayals shatter bridges forever. You aimed to destroy me, ensure you could finish. The car pulled away, leaving her alone. She didn't know Rutherford was my contact or that my testimony would topple their network. Back home that night, accounts locked cards, canceled surgical cuts to our shared life. Dominic's office raided him in cuffs, shouting rights. Trisha sat amid ruins of our decade's irony, biting her plot to strip me bare had stripped her instead. The federal courthouse loomed starkly different from Ross's tainted domain, marble pillars echoing true justice where arrogance crumbled under scrutiny. I sat in the gallery, the hard bench pressing against my aging back, watching Dominic at 60 face charges that spanned 30 years of corruption. His once swaggering frame seemed diminished sweat, beating despite the cool air as Emma Lucas, sharp-eyed in her 50s, dismantled him with clinical precision. The evidence poured out like a long-buried flood, recordings of bribes, case fixes, a web of manipulation stretching back decades, all gathered by Christian's digital prowess. Mr. Vaughn, Lucas pressed, "Explain your ties to Judge Ross." His public defender objected feebly, but the speakers crackled with Dominic's own voice. "Ross dances to my tune. I've covered his gambling for years. Without me, he's done." A mix of vindication and sorrow stirred in me, the strategist appreciating the trap's elegance, yet the husband grieving the marriage's collateral ruin. Judge Austin Stern, at 60-something, offered a plea, full cooperation for reduced time. Dominic's face cycled through fury to desperate math, his empire collapsing in real time. The jury returned guilty on all counts: conspiracy, bribery, racketeering, after mere hours. Austin's sentence rang merciless. "You've perverted justice for gain. 18 years federal, no parole for 10. Shackled and led away, Dominic's eyes met mine, hatred mingling with fear, finally grasping the enemy he'd underestimated. During recess, Rutherford waited outside, her 55-year-old gaze steady. "Your intel nailed it, 12 arrest network, bigger than thought." A strategic nod from me, but she added, "Your wife's probing hired a PI to dig your past." Wallace Bright had been a solid detective for 20 years with the Denver PD before retiring to private work, good at unraveling knots others overlooked, reading faces like open books. At 60, he understood the grind of age-aching knees from old chases, instincts sharpened by experience rather than speed. What he didn't grasp was that some knots were tied for a reason, and pulling them could unravel more than intended. Trisha hired him 3 days after Dominic's arrest, her voice desperate over the phone, offering $10,000 to unearth my secrets, my past, my whereabouts, anything for leverage in the wreckage of our 25-year marriage. "I need to know who he really is," she told Bright in their first meeting at a quiet coffee shop, her hands wringing a napkin. "Everything was a lie, the business's background. Even his name might be fabricated. I need something to fight back." The betrayal's sting echoed in her words, but I felt no pity. Her choices had led here, and my strategy demanded vigilance. Bright took the case for the cash and the thrill it beat, tailing cheating spouses or insurance scams. He started basic property deeds, business licenses, tax records. My paper trail was airtight, a consulting firm registered 20 years ago, post-retirement, steady income, all legit on the surface. But digging into military records cracked it open. I'd claimed Army service for 6 years, sergeant rank, honorable discharge. Deeper probes reveal gaps, timeline inconsistencies, medals not matching units that existed only in shadows. "This guy is either a con artist," Bright muttered in his home office, sipping black coffee as dawn broke, "or his real records buried under classifications I can't touch." The puzzle intrigued him, stirring old cop curiosity. He photographed docs in my basement. Trisha had slipped him a key when he heard the front door creak open. Footsteps echoed, measured, deliberate like a thorough sweep. Bright drew his licensed sidearm, heart pounding with that familiar adrenaline surge creeping upstairs. "Mr. Bright," I called calmly from the living room, hands visible on my lap as I sat in my armchair. No need for dramatics at our age. Strategy was about presence, not force. "I'm unarmed. Let's talk." He recognized my voice from Trisha's recordings, emerging, cautious, weapon ready, but not aimed. "Stay put. I'm armed." "I'm aware," I said evenly, adjusting my glasses, feeling the weight of 65 years in my steady gaze. "And that you're probing me for my estranged wife. I have information that might shift your view." Against instinct, Bright lowered his guard slightly. We were contemporaries after all, both veterans of unseen wars. 30 seconds. Your record shows Iraq and Afghanistan tours. I began slowly drawing on shared history to build rapport. Clean service bravery commendations. You get operational security classified stays buried. What's your angle? He pressed, tension in his stance, mirroring my own internal churn, exposing fragments of my past risked old ghosts, but strategy required neutralizing threats. I reached deliberately into my jacket, withdrawing a folder, placing it on the coffee table. Some knowledge kills good men for wrong questions. Agencies you shouldn't know, codes beyond your clearance. He glanced down, blood draining from his face, official seals, redacted ops, hinting at depths he'd whispered about in barracks. Fakes, or warnings you're over your head, I replied, voice carrying quiet authority from decades commanding shadows. In Kandahar, you heard of ghost units, missions off books. Yeah, he admitted, memories flickering. Whispers. I was one, I confessed emotion, surfacing a flicker of regret for the life I'd left, now dragged back by betrayal. 35 years enabling honorable service like yours. Retired to build with a woman I loved. Her betrayal revived what should stay dead. The implications hung heavy. A cold fog settling. We shared a look, two old warriors recognizing the cost of provocation. You're saying walk away. Your client's blind to this world. So were you. But as a vet, you know some fights aren't winnable, some foes unprovocable. I stood slowly, heading for the door. Collect your 10 grand fast. This case ends badly for the living. After I left, Bright stared at the folder, investigative fire, clashing with survival wisdom from combat tours. He thought of Dominic's 18-year sentence, Ross's vanishing amid debts, my enemies falling like dominoes in a master plan. When Trisha called for updates, he chose life. Returning your retainer, Mrs. Terrell, accept his terms and vanish quietly. What? You can't quit. I need that info. No, ma'am. Some doors stay shut. Your husband's not who you married, but not an enemy you want active. He hung destroying notes and evidence wisdom of age prevailing. Mysteries like mine were best unsolved. 2 weeks after Bright walked away from her case, Trisha was a shadow of the woman I'd married. A woman without anchors, her once comfortable retirement life unraveling like frayed threads. The house teetered on foreclosure credit cards, frozen, every legal door slammed shut by forces she couldn't fathom. Desperation had eclipsed her arrogance, fear gnawing at the edges of her confidence, forcing her to confront the depth of her misstep. I sensed it all from afar, my strategy, a silent web tightening without mercy. She found me at the downtown diner where we'd shared our first date. 25 years ago, a small joint with cracked vinyl booths, the scent of brewing coffee thick in the air, evoking ghosts of happier times. The place hadn't changed much. Same worn counter, same faint hum of the old jukebox in the corner. I sat in our old booth, newspaper in hand, sipping black coffee that burned bitter on my tongue, masking the churn of emotions beneath. At 65, nostalgia hit harder. A reminder of the life we'd built before her boredom with our quiet Huru years sparked this betrayal. She approached hesitantly, her steps echoing on the linoleum, face etched with lines of regret that mirrored my own hidden sorrow. Martin, she said, sliding in across from me, her voice trembling like the fragile trust she'd shattered. I looked up, expression neutral, though inside a storm raged, strategic calm overlaying the ache of 25 years wasted. Trisha, I wondered if you'd come here. You've destroyed everything, she accused, but her tone lacked fire, replaced by weary defeat. Her hands fidgeted on the table, nails bitten short, a far cry from the poised woman I'd known. The house, our savings, Dominic's career, even that judge. You've ruined it all. Exposed it, I corrected firmly, folding the paper with precise movements, each crease a calculated step in my mind's ongoing plan. There's a difference. Dominic chose corruption over decades. Ross took bribes to feed his vices. You chose adultery and conspiracy, chafing at our retirement routine, bored with the stability I provided, seeking thrills that betrayed us both. I merely ensured consequences followed. She studied me, searching for the husband she dismissed as predictable. The diner's fluorescent lights cast harsh shadows on her face, highlighting the regret pooling in her eyes. What happened to you? This isn't the man I married, the quiet consultant who read history books by the fire. Isn't it? I countered, leaning forward slightly, the booth creaking under my weight. Emotions surged, a flicker of love, long buried under layers of hurt, but strategy demanded I channel it into resolve. Or did you choose not to see? You thought I was convenient, a reliable provider for our golden years, dull enough to ignore while you chased excitement. You never asked about the scars from my ops, the nightmares that woke me, or why I'd vanish for days tying loose ends. You didn't want the truth. Her hand shook as she reached for my coffee cup, seeking steadiness, the warmth seeping through her fingers like the fleeting comfort we'd once shared. What do you want from me now? Nothing, and I said, voice carrying the finality of a mission's endgame. This conversation was courtesy, not concession, a strategic pause to let her glimpse the board before the checkmate. No negotiation, no compromise. But there are three kinds in this world: builders, maintainers, destroyers. For 35 years, I destroyed threats, terrorist syndicates, shadows threatening security. I excelled at it. I paused, meeting her gaze, letting her see the depth in my eyes. The man who'd once feared his name in dark circles. Marrying you, I aimed to build a marriage, a peaceful retirement worth savoring. But you became a destroyer, chafing at our quiet life, plotting to dismantle me for greed and passion. Martin, please, she whispered, tears welling, her regret palpable, stirring a reluctant pity in me. But mercy was a weakness I couldn't afford. The plan required closure. No pleas left, I replied, standing and placing cash on the table. You chose this path. In an hour, a call will come and offer to start over far away. Take it. It's your only exit. What offer? She asked, voice cracking. Strict terms, a simple life in Montana, clerking at a general store studio apartment above. Minimum wage, no luxuries fitting for one who tired of retirement's ease. As I walked toward the door, the diner's bell jingling like a distant alarm, she called after me. What if I refuse? What if I fight? I paused without turning a strategy, already mapping contingencies. Then you'll learn how inventive an old ghost can be with threats to his peace. After 25 years, I've planned for every move. No win for you here. An hour later, her phone rang. Gwen Arias's voice was cool, professional. We offer relocation, Montana town population 3,000. Store clerk, modest stipend, housing above. Conditions, no old contacts. No return to Colorado, vanishes Trisha Terrell. That's humiliating, I can't, Trisha protested, but fear edged her words. Alternative, your current void, no assets, prospects dim. Plus Vaughn's old associates blame you. They're unforgiving. Trapped between my calculated revenge and criminal fallout, Trisha weighed her chafed retirement boredom against this harsh reset. That night in our empty house, surrounded by echoes of discarded dreams, she called Gwen. I'll take it. Wise. Car at 6 a.m. and one suitcase. 6 months later, I sat in a modest diner in a new city, the morning sun filtering through the windows like a symbol of renewal, casting golden rays over my coffee cup, illuminating the fragments of a life reborn. The headlines in the paper confirmed what my contacts had whispered. Judge Melvin Ross had been found dead in his Atlantic City hotel room, an apparent suicide triggered by his unraveling as the linchpin of a vast corruption ring. Dominic Vaughn was rotting in a medium security prison, his legal cunning useless behind bars, serving out his 18 years, where expensive suits meant nothing. The investigation had snowballed beyond Denver, exposing similar networks in 3 states, toppling crooked judges, attorneys, and officials. Emma Lucas now led a federal task force purging judicial rot nationwide, while Detective Katie Rutherford earned commendations for her pivotal role, though our collaboration stayed buried in classified files. Christian Montoya had vanished back into digital obscurity, his mission complete. Jake Prince ran a Chicago security firm with a roster of clients who valued discretion. Al Roberts lounged in a Costa Rican beach house, his financial wizardry rewarding those who kept wealth hidden. My own world had transformed. Martin Terrell, the retired consultant, dissolved quietly. Clients reassigned, assets redistributed. Under a fresh identity, I operated from the shadows once more, not as the ghost of old ops charging into danger, but as a strategic advisor guiding younger operatives with the wisdom of 65 years. My latest role, consulting on a Miami-based crackdown on a human trafficking syndicate, analyzing patterns, mapping networks, ensuring justice without lifting a finger myself. It suited me, action through intellect, preserving the peace I'd fought to earn. The work brought a quiet fulfillment, a sense of freedom I'd lost in the betrayal's chains. No more suburban facade, no illusions of a perfect retirement tainted by deceit. Instead, a brighter horizon, missions chosen on my terms, aligned with a moral compass forged in fire. The ocean breeze in Miami symbolized it all. Vast, untamed, washing away the past debris, promising endless possibilities. My phone buzzed, an unknown number, Montana area code. I answered, knowing who it was. "Hello, Martin." Trisha's voice was hesitant, laced with the weariness of her new stripped-down existence, clerking in a small-town store, living simply above it, far from the luxuries she'd craved to escape our retirement rut. "Hello, Trisha." I waited, the diner's chatter fading as old emotions surfaced, a twinge of pity for the woman I'd loved, now facing the solitude her choices wrought. I know I shouldn't call this breaks the agreement, but I had to say, "I'm sorry, not for getting caught, but for betraying you from the start. You deserve better than my restlessness, my greed. I understand now what I destroyed." I paused, reflecting on our shared decades, the laughter by firesides, the dreams of growing old together. But freedom demanded closure. "I appreciate that," I said, after a moment, voice steady. "But it changes nothing. You made your choice. Now live its weight. That's justice." "I know, I just think about what we had before I ruined it. Was there ever a way back?" "No," I replied, without hesitation, the words a final lock turning. "Some betrayals sever ties irrevocably. You crossed that line, ending us. Honor the deal, it's your shield from worse." She hung up and I sat there, the sun warming my face, a symbol of liberation. Pity lingered briefly, but mercy she'd forfeited. At 60, I'd reclaim my path, advising against shadows, ensuring betrayals met consequences, all while embracing a future unburdened. Justice wasn't vengeance. It was equilibrium, actions bearing fruit, treachery, exacting tolls. In Miami's light, powerful men would soon learn attracting a seasoned ghost gaze meant permanent erasure. I'd settled my ledger free to aid others in theirs. The reckoning, complete, justice's work endured. But as I stepped into the sunlight, I carried the quiet triumph of a man unbound, ready for whatever dawn brought next. If this story of betrayal, justice, and reclaiming freedom inspired you, smash that like button and subscribe for more tales of sweet revenge. Drop a comment below sharing your thoughts. What would you do in Martin's shoes? Or tell me your own story of rising above betrayal. Let's build a community of strength. Hit subscribe now, turn on notifications, and check out the next video in the playlist for another epic comeback. Your support keeps these stories coming. Don't miss out.